Welcome to the show, everybody. We're talking about Substack. We're on Substack, talking about Substack because we're all victims of technology and attacks, including our guest today for the FiveStack, Mr. Jacob Kaarsbo, who last week I'm trying to invite him to a podcast. I'm like, Danish intelligence guy. And I'm like, Danish intelligence guy just vanished out of nowhere. His account's gone. I'm just really happy to have you back. What happened? Like, what do you know? What did Substack tell you? Because, despite your following, I mean, you're a very
Yeah.
important intelligence voice to the world. I mean,
I was suddenly hit by some scam and took over my account. And I can't remember whether I have inadvertently pushed a button sometime in some email or something. I don't usually do that.
yeah.
But suddenly it went crazy, and I could see my account popping up like all different stuff, and then I got a notification from Substack saying you're suspended because of suspected spam. And I said,
Interesting.
but for heaven's sake, please look into this because someone has taken over my account.
So you got everything back in place now. Your followers are still back, and everyone's back in place.
Yeah, most of it. I noticed something today with different colors and stuff, but they usually respond pretty quickly at the Substack services department or whatever it's called, and yeah, they look into it, and I think most of it is rectified.
There's been all sorts of outages in the last 24
Yeah.
hours, including AWS, that has really stifled a lot of services. But Substack is definitely a new target for whoever's out there trying to suppress any sort of non-MAGA thinking. We've been noticing on all our channels lately, and it's really affecting us.
Yeah.
I believe they call it hybrid warfare. But like to your point, to your point, during the time frame that you were hacked by someone named Trezor, by the way, very 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 mysterious, mystical.
Yeah.
Trezor, during that time frame that you were hacked, there was fucking huge news going on over in Europe when it came to, as Zev pointed out, little green men in Estonia. We've got some reporting out of the Netherlands, of course. Ukraine and Russia, still Ukraine and Russia. You've got Germany basically putting their fucking line in the sand, saying, "Yeah, there's nobody that is going to partake in our sovereignty, with the exception of the German people." And I mean, all the Baltic stuff. So was it targeted, do you think? And do they know? I mean, your intelligence, do you not have like someone you can call, like Q, and go, "Hey, dude, track this guy down for me"?
Unfortunately not. I think I'd get in trouble if I did that. But there was all kinds of stuff happening, and I'd actually been down because I was up in my vacation home, my summer house, which is right by the top of Denmark, where we have all the Russian Shadow Fleet ships, and I could count at least 15 ships out there in the bay. And I'd been filming them, and I was going to upload to Substack, and then this stuff started happening. I don't know if it's a coincidence, but I got some weird emails, I have to say. Yeah. So
What do you mean weird emails? Like what?
Yeah, with the something about extra security, etc. And I don't think I pushed anything because I usually say this is spam. But I don't know now if I inadvertently had hit something. But
You don't need to these days. Sometimes you're just able to infect machines without even pushing any buttons. But that is a scary thing.
And then I posted something, and then my Substack went boom and Trezor all over the place. And yeah, I don't know what.
Oh, that wacky Trezor guy, can't even spell Trevor right. Surprised he hacked you. Well, listen, I'm really glad you're back, and really, really happy that you got a second to join us. And I apologize last week. We just had a functionality issue, and we just couldn't get to you. And I was dying to talk to you, but maybe fortuitous that we didn't get a chance to talk to you because the number one story on the FiveStack today, or the number 5 story right out of the gate, the bombshell report that Trump absolutely destroyed Volodymyr Zelensky behind closed doors at the White House when he publicly walked back every admission of fucking support for Ukraine, saying not only no tomahawks, but you're going to stop fighting, you're going to give Putin whatever he wants, and you're going to be done. He's throwing maps across the room. And really the ultimate betrayal yet again. I mean, this poor guy just keeps showing up to the White House and he keeps getting embarrassed and he keeps getting told that he has to give away his sovereignty, his land. Crimea is gone. Donbass is gone. Fuck you. Sign the thing and let's go because I need this war to be over because daddy needs his Nobel Peace Prize. So what do you make of this getting walked back again? And is Ukraine putting any stock into this anymore? Or are they just about going it alone? Because this is fucking crazy.
It is crazy, and unfortunately, it was the predictable outcome.
Yeah.
Like you had Lev Panas on before I was suspended on Substack, and I listened in, and I had been saying the exact same things. This won't happen with the tomahawks, etc. It's going to be the same old story, and there'll be some play by Russia, and Steve Witkoff will be in the frame, etc., etc. And that was exactly what happened. So it was all very predictable. And I would say after February, March, what happened with the Trump administration then, I think what Zelensky going to Washington now was like a European play and an extension of that whole approach of, oh, well, we'll try to reel daddy in and all that nonsense. And it's wishful thinking on the parts of European diplomats. That's my take because they don't want to realize really how bad it is with the Trump administration, and then they're just trying to see if they can keep stuff on the rails. But just as it happened back in February and March, now we had, in August rather, we had the crazy Anchorage summit, and now this what happened this week, and it'll always be the same. And as soon as these crucial decisions they approach, up comes Putin and his Dmitriev, kill Dmitriev, and just on this issue of tomahawks and what was going on last week. Actually, if you had followed Kirill Dmitriev's profile on X, you could already tell.
Oh, he's been ramping it up, hasn't he? We're best friends. We're friends. Let's build a bridge and a tunnel. We love each other.
Exactly. And at one stage before that, even a couple of weeks ago, he said, I don't believe all this bluster here. Nothing will happen because we have our good back channels. And you had that whole thing about Melania Trump having a direct access to Putin and all that crazy shit.
You always have to wonder about the sanity of this president. I mean, he shifts positions every other week. Having gone from being quite close and pally with Zelensky just a few weeks ago, now he's busy saying you have to concede the entire Donbass region. He literally said the words, "Putin will destroy you if you don't agree now." And this is after pondering this idea of giving a Tomahawk missiles to the Ukrainian military. Now, we've all known for a long time this is exactly who Trump is, that he's never going to sell out Putin because they're partners. In fact, one is a puppet of the other. And yet we still are playing this game of charade in front of everybody. What should we be doing? What's the alternative to this, let's pretend we're friends when we're not really, a game that we're playing?
There's only one alternative, and that is support Ukraine as hard as we can. And make sure that the Russian army is defeated inside of Ukraine.
But in this case, you've got Russia is not playing along. I mean, Trump is not playing along. We know Trump's on Russia's side. What should the rest of the world be doing?
Yeah, we need to do our thing, basically, and say Trump is not on our side. We can only handle this through strength. And then we can hope for one day that the Americans get their senses back. Because if we, continue this policy of wishful thinking, it'll end up badly. So we need to strengthen ourselves massively. That is happening even quite a bit here in Europe. Not enough for my taste, but that is happening, and we just have to make ourselves as strong as possible, because that's the only way we can handle it.
Should
Well,
there
and
be
part of that, if
sanctions
it,
against the United States? Would you agree that there should be sanctions or other like actual steps taken by European countries to combat the United States?
Well, I mean,
like,
Trump
I
is
hear
like,
tariffs are fun.
yeah, that's really good fun. No, but Trump is like a carnivore on the savannah, and he only stops when he's met with force necessarily, and a strong, firm response. And as soon as we fold, he gets more appetite. And in Europe we have this whole debacle of Digital Services Act, etc., where Trump is really pushing hard and threatening, because I mean, we don't want polluted social media polluting our societies, and essentially algorithms controlled by MAGA, and that's what Trump wants. So that's why this crunch and this conflict is inevitable, because this is about ideology, and a lawful society and not a lawless society. And Trump doesn't want us to really stay strong and stay united in Europe. He wants division, and he wants to use us as pawns on the chessboard, and people need to realize.
Yeah, such a well said. I mean, and springboarding off of what Lev dropped last week, knowing that there was never any intention to give arms to Ukraine. There still are no intentions to give arms to Ukraine. Doesn't matter how many times you send Pete Nutsack to go and speak to people at NATO or the Hague, right, to tell them, "Oh, the firepower is coming." There's no firepower coming, and it just blows my mind.
And that was Thursday.
Yeah.
That was Thursday. All
Yeah.
that shit was going on. In
That was
NATO.
Thursday, and then Friday we have the old "no tomahawks for you, fella." Like, it's mind numbing, and it's got to worry, member states. It's got to worry people like you and people in the intelligence community that hey, not only do we have to go this alone, we might have to cut sharing intelligence or information with Donald Trump's America out of the equation. I know Canada has curbed sharing intelligence. I've heard stories about Five Eyes wanting to go to four because one of the other eyes is completely broken or staring at Vladimir Putin's ass every time he walks by. So, like, what are you hearing about, the curbing of sharing intelligence, or really even shutting out intelligence altogether? Because some countries are making some pretty bold fucking statements right now.
Exactly, and in Europe, it's usually what no one wants to talk about. And I've said, I'm sure the Danish intelligence service, my former colleagues, are putting curbs on the intelligence sharing, and no one will ever say so. And then what happened this weekend? The heads of the Dutch services, not Danish services, but the services in the Netherlands, they come out and say, we're limiting intelligence sharing with the Americans, and in particular with regard to Russian intelligence, because we're afraid of leaks. And it's a slam dunk to any intelligence officer, any intelligence professional, that would happen. But it's certainly not a slam dunk that that a chief will come out and say so, because usually it's just something that happens behind the curtains.
Mm.
But the Dutch, they came out of the closet, like crazy. I was like,
They've always
what?
been that way, Jacob. They've
But
always been a
that's
little like that, There's Dutch. I mean, it's not new. We know. We
Yeah.
know.
You know what? Mike Myers called it in the third Austin Powers trilogy movie, Goldmember. He doesn't like the Dutch. He's not a big fan. But I want to just kind of underscore what you just said, right? you had the Dutch intelligence service, the chief of the Dutch intelligence service, come out and go, "Yeah, so we've stopped sharing information with the United States of America for obvious reasons." I'm paraphrasing, but that's kind of what he said. And then, but whereas as you point out, being a Danish intelligence officer yourself for quite some time, member of the UN Security Committee as well for Denmark, as you point out, that's not something you come out and say unless you want to make a fucking statement. Like, it's unprecedented.
Yeah, you don't have public breakups in the intelligence world, but you'd usually sit at the lower levels and say, "Hey, this is no good because we have sources here and here and here." And they, the Kremlin, for instance, they might well get compromised. But usually you will never have a chief or a minister or anyone come out and say that. They'll usually say, "Oh, everything is fine," and then at the lower levels, you say, "Operationally, we're never going to cooperate with those and those and those because we're afraid of where it ends up, and that our sources will get compromised and risk their lives." Really.
Now, last week when we were going to have you on, we had talked about those two incursions. One was they were little green men that looked a lot like the ones that first invaded Ukraine from Russia in Estonia. There were other indications of the Finnish border was being shut down, if I'm not mistaken. All access to Russia has been shut off. There's I don't know if you're still having the drone attacks over there, but we are seeing, a emboldened Russia seeming to test the limits of where it can attack, or at least push its military forces into, and they look like they're going into NATO countries. I mean, that really is the next step. The one thing that's holding them back right now is Ukraine. So, is it realistic that they could take on another country, another front, or is this just them testing the limits and showboating a little bit?
I don't think they want to open an extra front because they have plenty to do in Ukraine. But the thing is, these things might happen inadvertently, and the big objective of the Russian shadow war, as I choose to call it. I don't call it hybrid attacks. I call it shadow war because it is a war against Europe, and that is to divide and to make us scared and to gauge how we react. And when we don't react with force and insert punishment on the Russians, they perceive us as weak and divided, and then they push further. And that's the big risk of this stuff, that we end up in a war, not necessarily because the Russians want it, but because we don't respond in time. And we come up too late, and then suddenly we have dead people in the street, and then it goes crazy. And some of these Russian attacks, sabotage attacks in Europe, it's been a really, really fortunate coincidence that it hasn't cost lives, especially in Germany. There have been some really, really close calls. There was a bomb on a DHL plane last year that didn't that didn't explode in the air, but on the ground it was a fire bomb. But that was because the plane was delayed. Had it gone off while the DHL plane had been en route to the UK, we would have had dead people.
Absolutely.
I think there were a couple other ones like that too, right? Where the was it from Poland? A couple of flights from Poland were supposed to end up in Canada.
Yeah, and all these GPS jamming. For instance, there was while I was up at my dacha. That was that's where there are a lot of fishermen. There was a fishing boat. Suddenly, it had no radar. It had none of its stuff was working. So it had no way to signal. They could sail back, but it was only because it was during the day. Had it happened at night, it would have been really, really dangerous.
So is the radar being blocked? How is that happening? Do we know it?
Yeah, Jamming.
Jamming. That's the thing that Putin does. The Russians do a lot of that kind of stuff.
He did it to Ursula von der Leyen's flight. Did it to the German general, high-ranking German general. Almost killed him. Yeah.
Someone asked on the chat, why is Donbass so important? And I think it is an important question because most people will say, well, it's just one region. Why don't you just give it to them, get it over with? But it's not really.
It's important because there are a lot of Russian speakers. Not people that sympathize with Russia, but the Russian speakers are, put forward by Putin and his henchmen as being loyal to Russia, which is no, not at all. But that's the storyline that the Kremlin is pushing, and that's the storyline that Steve Witkoff is pushing. I don't know if you saw his interview with Tucker Carlson back in April.
I try really hard not to consume anything Tucker Carlson, but I did see him on 60 Minutes pretend to be a real diplomat this weekend.
Okay, but Steve Witkoff's interview with Tucker Carlson, it's insane. And it's just, he's just come back from Moscow, and it's just a full blown Russian propaganda show for the MAGA faithful, and that's the story he continues to push, and that's why that's Putin's great success to convince the Trump administration that speaking Russian in Ukraine is the same as being loyal to Russia, which is it is not. Let's remember that Zelensky was also a Russian speaker back in the day. Just to mention one, but I mean, all this stuff is bullshit. Sorry, because they had referenda when Ukraine gained independence back in 1991, and that's why that was a precondition for the UN border drawing the borders, etc., and accepting the independence. So all this stuff about Russian speakers wanting to be part of Russia, even in the Donbass provinces, 85% voted for independence for Ukraine.
Right. They're not pro-Russia. You know what? We have to still get to the top five. Jacob, do you want to stick with us and throughout the show? Is that okay?
That's okay.
Dean, is that okay with you?
Absolutely. I love having Jacob around, unless he's got to go, and which I totally understand, but you stick around as long as you want. Your smiling face just makes me feel better.
He does make me feel better. Let's go to number 5 then. Fox News star Laura Ingraham, who spent years attacking Hunter Biden's business dealings as corrupt influence peddling, has gone into business with Donald Trump Jr., becoming a director of a special purpose acquisition company seeking to raise $260 million. The SPAC, called Columbia Acquisition Corp. 3, explicitly positions itself to capitalize on the market's excitement to fund the next chapter of American exceptionalism and America First cultural shift after the 2024 U.S. election. With Ingraham slated to chair the compensation committee that could directly control payments to the president's son. I mean, you would call it a conflict of interest anywhere else in the world, but apparently not for Fox News, which seems to be okay with this thing.
I gotta tell you, I'm watching Jacob put his hand over his head. We're inundated with the minutia around the Trump regime every day, and invariably it always comes back to one thing: how the Trump regime can make more money, how the Trump brand, the Trump family can make more fucking money. Listen, friends, if you think Laura Ingram's going to be the bastion of corporate responsibility as this is a rugging, by the way, as she hoovers money from people based on market excitement for unnamed projects, but don't worry, cokehead Donnie Jr.'s on the scene, and these are his projects, and don't worry, everything's going to be fine because Eric Trump's also part of this whole thing too, and Eric only stole about 20 million from cancer victims about 10, 15 years ago. So don't worry, it's going to be. I cannot, what I can't get over, and this is me every single day when I hear these stories. What I can't get over is that everybody just shrugs their shoulders in the United States and goes, well, I guess, I guess they're just gonna, but because the robber baron mentality of this regime. It just like if you're in Europe, like I get it because we're inundated with it every day. Like you must hear these stories over in Europe and go, hey, that shouldn't be allowed because it shouldn't, yet it continues to happen.
Yeah. And, that's why, often here in Europe, you hear a lot of people, politicians, business people say, but the US institutions will hold. They'll have midterm elections, the institution will hold. And that's just a crazy assumption because I say to people, okay, let's have a competing hypothesis here. And then let's line up the evidence. And you'll have 80% in the no institutions. This is going haywire. And people just don't want to face it.
It's wild. It's wild. Not only do they not want to face it, it's almost as if they shrug their shoulders collectively. And I don't know if anybody is. I'm a big SpongeBob guy. If anybody's seen the episode of the movie SpongeBob, where the guys are walking around with helmets just like automatons, it's almost like they're just completely, totally defeated at this point. Like the United States of America, the people of the United States of America. Because I tell you what, Joe Biden does this. Joe Biden enriches his family, which you can argue Burisma might have been a board position, but you can argue. But if this is anybody else, 9/10 of the bullshit, 9/10 of the bullshit doesn't happen. It's just wild to me.
It is.
I'm sorry. I'm not sure if you guys can hear me. You guys good?
Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah,
yeah. So I'm just saying this regime is so corrupt, and we've now accepted that day to day corruption is endemic in everything we do, whether it's Laura Ingraham or Donald Trump or his two sons grifting off the crypto thing or Witkoff's sons grifting off crypto. We are okay as a society, it seems, with corruption at a mass scale, at an endemic level. Now, of course, we need to stop this. The one thing that I think was a real boost was on this weekend when we had that No Kings rally. 7 million people showed up. And I think the thing, if these weren't just people on the left or the right, these were people just frustrated with MAGA from all parts of the political spectrum because people are so tired of corruption. People can see what's going on. They can see these billionaires are busy profiting left over one after the other, making so much money while Medicare and Medicaid is being cut for ordinary Americans and the government is being shut down. I mean, this is stuff that's really happening to people in real lives right now. And I think this issue of corruption needs to become the central focus of the movement against Donald Trump and the movement against MAGA. We can all agree that the corruption is out of control. We've seen it build up over 50 years from the Jeffrey Epstein saga that I've been covering, but just the rise of this sort of deep state and this corrupt organized criminal activity that's been going on, and it's threatening the existence of our country. We really need to focus on corruption as the unifying force that I think everyone can gather around. I mean, no one would disagree with the fact that we need to get rid of corruption right now in America.
No, but you also get that's why we're fighting a culture wars because they know that, right? They know that they're completely fucking corrupt, and so what they do is they do stuff like call everybody at the No Kings rally this weekend a bunch of terrorists and Antifa, pro Hamas adjacent, and while they're doing that, they're ramping up the fucking drum beats of war against their own people. They're literally in business with their media partners, like Laura Ingraham, starting a $250 million fucking fund for a company where they get to go and acquire things. Like it blows my mind. It just
imagine Rachel Maddow doing something like that. Rachel just suddenly was like in the 9 o'clock hour would say, "Hey, I'm starting a little company with Barack Obama's kids over here." I mean, we'd never hear the end of it. But it's perfectly okay for what's her name to go out there and say this about the Trump kids and invest $260 million, or demand investment of $260 million, which is what they'll get for the SPAC. And you're absolutely right. It's going to be a rugging. There'll be nothing useful that comes out of this thing.
No.
The number 4 story on the countdown. 7 million Americans took to the street Saturday for the No Kings protests in more than 2,500 locations nationwide, proving that peaceful resistance isn't just possible, but powerful in the face of rising authoritarianism. While Republican leaders frantically labeled the demonstrations Hate America rallies and urged citizens to stay home and watch football instead, the contrast with January the 6th couldn't be more striking. Zero arrests in New York City's 350,000 person march. And same thing for Chicago. 250,000 people demonstrated there. You have the story on deanblundell.substack.com. What's your take on the weekend, Dean?
Oh man, well, I got a couple of different takes. One, just the sheer volume of people that showed up and the sheer lack of violence. You know, as you pointed out, it was truly magnificent, great to watch. They said 7 to 12 million people showed up. I'm going to go with the 7 million. But the scenes were incredible. The support was unbelievable. These were people from all walks of life. It was teachers, doctors, lawyers, retirees, young people, old people. I saw, probably a 9-year-old kid walking around with the greatest sign of the entire No Kings March. It said Donald Trump just hit on my girlfriend, which was which was truly unbelievable. Anyway, everybody got involved and they exercised their democratic right to free speech, their First Amendment right to free speech. Everybody's like the fucking first thing. You come out of the womb, First Amendment means you get to say whatever you want. Second Amendment is you get to go get a gun. So good, congratulations, everybody. You had a nice weekend. But I was taken aback by a conversation I had with my friend Steve Schmidt, who went to Iowa City for the No Kings rally. He actually went down there and marched for it. And 90,000 people went to the Iowa University, the University of Iowa's football game. 7,000 people showed up for the protest. And, as staggering as those numbers sound, 7 million, this is only going to make a dent when that 7 turns to 30. 30 turns to 40, 40 turns to 50, when there is a general strike where the United States of America says, okay, we're not all just going to do this on a Saturday. We're not going to work. We're not doing anything. We're going to cripple the economy in each one of these cities until you get out, because nothing will change. Nothing will change. And those numbers, like 7 million, if you think about it, and I did a little bit of math, there were over 70 million people that attended college football games this weekend. 70 million people. So when we're sitting around and NFL football games, and we're sitting around talking about numbers, I love the numbers. I love the fact that people showed up. Absolutely in love with the fact it was super peaceful. Flip those numbers around. How many people showed up to January 6th? 7,000, 8,000, 9,000? Was that it? About 9,000? 7 to 9,000? How many arrests
there
were?
Patriots. That wasn't Antifa.
They come twice as much.
Yeah, those Patriots, they were so patriotic, to your point, Jacob, that 9,000 people managed to kill a bunch of people, including police officers, and only 1,500 of them got arrested.
Yeah.
1,500.
Wow. I didn't see any Antifa, whatever that might look like. I didn't see any Hamas protesters there. I didn't see any Marxists. So the scene was so reminiscent of sort of like your middle-aged, concerned citizens marching very nicely in organized fashion down the streets. This was not what the Trump administration is calling a terrorist threat, but it is what they're calling a terrorist threat. I mean, this is what they're planning to label this whole movement as. But to your point, if this isn't sustained, it doesn't actually mean anything. All the studies we've seen anywhere in the world, you need to have sustained action. In Israel, they do it every weekend, every Saturday, whatever, every Friday. They go out there and they protest outside Bibi's or in the main part of Tel Aviv. It's that kind of sustained action that really builds movements. These once in a while protests are nice. They give you the numbers, they give you the visuals, but they don't really achieve what they need to achieve, which is sustained resistance.
Yeah, and you know what? That sustained resistance comes in many different forms, right? Whether it's a boycott, whether you show up, whether you just don't go to work, whether you're part of a general strike, doesn't matter. But I want to draw everybody's attention to Trump's response to this. Jacob, Zev, you've seen the video, right?
Oh, yeah.
You've seen the AI video? And the trolling of the AI. I mean, it's funny, but it's not funny. Where the president of the United States puts out a video of him flying an F-16. It's AI generated, of course. And he's bombing what appears to be a large city and its protesters during the No Kings rally. And on the side of the plane, it says King Trump, and he's wearing a crown, flying a fighter jet, and he dumps metric tons of raw sewage on the protesters. Metric tons. And dude, I want your thoughts on it, Jacob, because to me, I mean, I get the humor involved and stuff like that. That's the president of the fucking United States effectively telling people exercising their democratic right to free speech that he would shit on them if he could, and did as much so in a digitally altered video.
Yeah. I didn't even comment on it. It was so insane. Yeah. How can you sink that low? And then you have JD Vance going out also with some AI generated stuff with the crown, etc.
And Nancy Pelosi bowing to Donald Trump, and Bernie Sanders bowing to Donald Trump. Yep.
Yeah.
It's this weird fetish
Yeah.
they have, right? They really think that they're going to be able to do it. They really think they can become the kings of America, and the more that we feed into that, in some ways, the more Trump believes it, and the more he acts like a king. And in reality, he's actually been facing a lot of resistance from the military and from the courts. It seems to be piling up against him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, listen here, and here's the the sad truth of it is that video told everybody in America what they need to know, and even if you voted for him, even if you still like him, which I cannot fucking believe there are people that he hates you. He hates Americans.
He would shit on Americans. That's from a U.S. president to say, I can see the next campaign.
Yeah,
the guy who'll shit on you. Vote for me for president. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Well,
there it is.
From a leadership perspective, like, I mean, he's not a leader. He never has been. He just demands fealty. He demands respect, and then he comes out and he does shit like this. And listen, I get it. I'm a huge fan of AI and funny memes. And yes, I've seen some great ones of him crying in a diaper as a baby, shaking a rattler. Like, listen, I get it. It goes both ways. But you're talking about people exercising their democratic right to free speech while their democracy is being snatched from them, right? Mm-hmm. And most people in that situation, if you're Donald Trump or if you're that leader, and you got 7 to 10 million people marching around your country, you want to fucking make friends with those people. You don't want to drive them further into the abyss, but not Donald Trump. And it's not a fucking superpower in as much as to me, it's got to be mental illness. Like, there's no other solution, Jacob.
Yeah, it's something like that. It's incomprehensible.
Now you're starting to see why the Netherlands isn't sharing information with the United States.
Meanwhile, at number 3, a 155 millimeter artillery shell fired during a live fire demonstration for the Marine Corps' 250th anniversary at Camp Pendleton prematurely detonated over Interstate 5, dropping shrapnel into California Highway Patrol vehicles in Vice President J.D. Vance's protective detail. J.D. Vance was being protected by these guys, and this shrapnel coming down, raining on them from this little experiment or show that Hexeth had him put on. Governor Gavin Newsom had warned the Marines' plan to fire over the West Coast's main south artery was reckless, and he ordered a 17-mile stretch closed against military guidance, causing significant backups for the 80,000 people who use that stretch daily. The mishap occurred at 1:46 p.m. Saturday, with officers describing what sounded like pebbles hitting vehicles and finding a 2-inch piece of shrapnel that left a dent in a patrol car's hood. I mean, these guys are so incompetent. They're so incompetent.
What happens? Quick question.
Yeah.
Pop quiz for everybody on the Substack Live today, specifically for Jacob. What would happen if Denmark elected an idiot, and that idiot chose to go and find someone on a local news channel to run the Department of Defense? Stuff like this?
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, and not too many years ago, we had a terrible minister for defense. She was really, really bad. But, Hexeth makes her look really, really good. And because what's going on is crazy.
But the world must be laughing at us. I mean, the world must be looking at the American military thinking how incompetent they can't even do a flight show. Like, I mean, never mind wage a war against, Venezuela, which they intend to do. They can't even launch a single rocket across an interstate highway and not have it blow up over the highway. It's so incompetent and it's so pathetic that you just wonder how the world looks at America these days.
Yeah. It's crazy, and I've served with the U.S. military in Iraq for a few months, and I know a lot of good people. inside the military, and I can only imagine how they feel, because it's it's really, everything they stand for is being, just wiped out, and now it's about loyalty to MAGA, and nothing else. It's terrible, but we're seeing that evidence on a daily basis, where that whole value set is just being eroded.
So, do you talk to anybody associated with? And you're more than welcome to tell me that
Yeah.
that's classified. Go shove it, Dean. Do you talk to anybody in the U.S. military or in the U.S. intelligence apparatus, or any former U.S. intelligence or former U.S. military? What are they saying?
Yeah.
Just about the incompetence now, and the kakistocracy.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that whole thing of perverting the professionalism, and going back to Hexer's speech at Quantico, and all that crazy stuff going on. Of course, they're like, they feel really bad about it. I know that most of them, they say there are loyalists inside of the services, but most of them, by far the majority will say this is completely out of hand. But they stay on board also because you had the Admiral Halsey from
Southern Command. Yeah.
Southern Command resigning, and we'll see more of that. And I think it has to do with, do they get illegal orders or not?
Oh, like the
love that.
Venezuelan fishing boat. I mean, that's now not just Venezuela. That's Trinidad and Tobago. That's Colombia. The Colombian president came out and said yesterday, "Hey, listen, you committed murder. You killed some of our people, and not only that, 2 are still alive, and we would like answers." And what does Trump do? He puts out a Truth Social post, and he's like, "We're no longer sending you money. Fuck you."
Unbelievable. But we'll still want your cocaine, please. I mean, that's basically the message.
A smuggler, didn't he?
Yeah.
A drug smuggler, the president.
Yeah.
It seems to be wanting the rewards of that drug smuggling. Number 2 story. This is a really big story developing. Erez Rouhani, a Justice Department lawyer who won commendations defending Trump's first-term immigration policies and was promoted quickly in the second term, was fired after refusing to sign a legal brief that falsely labeled a wrongly deported man as an MS-13 terrorist. In a 60 Minutes interview, Rouhani describes witnessing the number 3 DOJ official Emil Bovee, Trump's former criminal defense attorney, tell career lawyers that if a court issued an order prevailing deportation flights, we may have to consider telling that court, fuck you. The whistleblower's account has been corroborated by over 35 federal cases where judges, both Democrats and Republican judges, have specifically criticized the Trump DOJ for providing false information, lying to the courts. Here's a clip from 60 Minutes. It's short, but it's worth your time.
Analyzed hundreds of suits filed against the administration, and he didn't imagine what judges were saying to the Trump Justice Department.
We found over 35 cases in which the judges have specifically said, what the government is providing me is false information. It might be intentionally false information, including false sworn declarations time and again.
In court records compiled by Goodman, Democratic and Republican appointed judges are critical of the Trump Justice Department's work. Highly misleading, said one judge. A serious violation of the court's order, wrote another. And a third warned, trust that had been earned over generations has been lost in weeks. This isn't the way things normally proceed?
It's not. In fact, I would say for some of the cases that we're looking at, maybe that would happen once every 10 years.
Who gets hurt by this?
The one entity or person or institution gets hurt the most is the Justice Department. So the judge...
That's it. Yeah, unbelievable that the story is going on. So much lying, bold-faced lying towards judges in the looking at all these cases that are carried.
Is it unbelievable?
It's unbelievable that it's happening. It's still happening. I mean, there's so many career prosecutors out there who shouldn't be doing it, who know that they're doing it under duress, but they're still doing it. Some people are still doing it, and it is shocking to me. I mean, this is the American justice system, the most vaunted, looked up to justice system in the world, and we've, in a matter of months, it's been turned into an authoritarian puppet regime kangaroo court.
Yeah. But listen, I said this last week on the show, and I want everybody to kind of take this. We are in the greatest psyop of our generation. I mean, we have just come through a golden age of peace after the Second World War ended, right? And then you've got Vietnam in the '60s and the '70s, and for the large part, for the last 30 years, we have not been sold a bill of goods like this ever in the history of mankind. I mean, this is Gulf of Tonkin stuff. This is propaganda. This is Nazi propaganda. This is Russian propaganda. This is exactly what people do. They invent a narrative that doesn't exist. They make you live in a sim, and that's what Donald Trump is doing. And he is unchallenged. Like, for I'm listening to that clip for the first time, read a little bit about the story today. But he is unchallenged. Like, he's got judges that are going between each other saying our democracy's lost, but nobody's doing anything about it other than whistleblowing, quitting their jobs, walking out. And then now you've got a vacuum of people who are more willing to do the work and the bidding of Donald Trump. I mean, you want to talk about cosplaying and misrepresenting narratives on purpose to create a sim for people to live in so you can keep them in fear, so you can do things like this. ICE raids all week long were the most violent ICE raids I have ever seen, and not one single protester from the No Kings protest was arrested this last weekend. And you ask yourself why. You look at it, you see these videos, these pictures, and they're all part of the psyop of Portland's a war zone. It was full of inflatable frogs and unicorns and fucking dinosaurs this weekend, right? Like it blows my mind. And then on top of that, they've got everybody from Tom Emmer to Chip Roy to, every single MAGA sycophant running around this weekend, calling them all fucking terrorists. Left-wing Antifa. They're the most dangerous group of people in the world. I mean, it doesn't matter, Jacob. It doesn't matter what reality is in front of people. They lie, as I point out, when the truth will do, right? And it's all because they are trying desperately to stay in power, and they know they're going to get their teeth kicked in 2026 unless they do shit like this.
Yeah. And checks and balances are shoved down the drain. And as I was saying initially, the institutions, they're trying to undermine the institutions. That's what's going on, because they don't value democracy. That's it.
And capture those institutions. The one thing that's on the horizon that certainly is concerning Donald Trump today is Virginia Giuffre's posthumous memoir, Nobody's Girl, which drops tomorrow, and leaked excerpts reveals a graphic new allegation against a former prime minister. This is a story from deanblundell.substack.com. You believe this guy is Israel's Ehud Barak. Tell us what Virginia Giuffre says in a posthumous book, Nobody's Girl.
I got a copy of it the other day, and I did read some of it. And I want to preface with what I'm going to say by leaning on Jacob to get me out of trouble. But there's an excerpt from that book. There are some very, very disturbing stories in that book, and there are people are named, and there's one specific name that wasn't named, but named in other capacities. And she talks specifically about this one person being a very well-known former prime minister. Now, she's also talked about how she used to see Ehud Barak, who was the prime minister of Israel for quite some time, all the time on Jeffrey Epstein's island. Jeffrey Epstein's mansion, was a regular at Jeffrey. There are pictures of Ehud Barak. They have a known relationship. There's a massive digital trail. So it's alleged that the person that abused her to the point where she thought she was going to die, where she was left bleeding out of, and I'll save you the gory details, all of her orifices for days, was this Israeli president. And it's fascinating because she's doing this from the grave. right? Like, this is justice from the grave for so many people. And whether or not it's Ehud Barak, I don't know. That is the allegation. The New York Post went with that this weekend. The New York Times went with that this weekend as well. And this book is coming out tomorrow. And it already is a bestseller across the board. And it will have information in this book that was written in part by Amy Wallace, who helped her ghostwrite this and finish the book posthumously after she allegedly committed suicide, which, again, days before she allegedly committed suicide, she put out a tweet. She's basically saying, in no way am I suicidal if anything happens to me. Just wanted everybody to know that. She then passes away after getting hit by a bus, which is incredibly fucking convenient. But I cannot imagine knowing the legitimacy, Jacob, of what is in and how bad this is. 2 days before that, Prince Charles, literally 2 days ago, stripped Prince Andrew of all of his royal fucking titles. Like, whatever is in there is that bad, and we're going to get a glimpse out at tomorrow. And as sad as it is, wanting justice for the victims that have literally been left hung out to dry for the last 20, 30 years, we might see some accountability, but more importantly, we might see, some very important people get named. And I got to imagine in certain intelligence circles, there's some serious concern about this book being released tomorrow.
Yeah, I can imagine. I hadn't even seen that. I have to confess, because I'd been looking at so many other things. But that's toxic stuff. That.
But you're an intelligence guy. I mean, we've reported on Jeffrey Epstein being an intelligence asset. We've reported about him running a blackmail operation, targeting American politicians. In your time as an intelligence officer, if you can say this, maybe you can't say it, but did you ever come across those kinds of stories about Jeffrey Epstein or people like him doing this kind of stuff?
No, actually, because when you're in a small service like I was, we focus so much on the immediate threats. And back in the day, it was a lot about terror, Islamic radicalism, etc., etc. So we didn't have time to dig into other stuff like that. Obviously, also a lot on Russia, but today is just different.
Isn't this how Russia works? Isn't this exactly what happens in Russia?
It is, because that's how you can, gain stuff that you can use to cultivate people to work for you, because you have obviously you have the cultivation, but then you also have the pressure points. And especially with stuff like this, they can extort people, and also with the economic leverage is also just a classic, I would say. So and then you look at some of these people in the U.S. administration now, not least the president, and for some reason he checks all those boxes that as FSB would look for, to try to get on to someone. Yeah, that's the reality.
I mean, because it seems to me that you got a corruption story here that has been going on for many years. This is not just blackmail. This is Jeffrey Epstein was making politicians do things for him because he had dirt on him, on them at least. This is not just putting Prince Andrew in bed with the girl. This is putting Prince Andrew with a girl who's a minor that they could then blackmail him with the possibility of an actual felony, an actual serious crime. This is them doing pretty dark deeds to control American politics in order to make money, ultimately, in order to make themselves and their bosses in organized crime units around the world make money. And this is the same corruption that's now inside the White House. There's a through line here from Jeffrey Epstein to Donald Trump, and Americans need to really seize this moment in uncovering what's in this book and challenging your representatives to ask them why, if they are supporting pedophilia, if they're not allowing this vote to happen on the FBI files, because it is remarkable to me that any politician will actually say that they don't want these files out, knowing now what we know is in Virginia Giuffre's book.
Yeah, but the thing is, you have that on the one side, and then you have all the pressures that Trump is using against those politicians in Congress to make sure it doesn't happen, because that's like mobster style stuff. That's the evidence I've heard, and that's why the Republicans don't dare rise up against this, and they just end up saying yes, sir.
Yeah, because it'll be the end of the party, won't it? It'll be the end of the
Yeah.
presidency. It'll be the end of their influence. If we get anything out of this, what happens to the Republican Party? Like, let's say this is true, what happens to the Republican Party? What happens to Donald Trump? What happens to, if it is Ehud Barak? What happens? What happens to those people? Their lives are going to be effectively over. Like, I've watched Donald Trump walk out of burning buildings and go, everything's fine, and a lot of people believe him before. But this one seems to be, to me anyway, incredibly, incredibly different because of what's hiding behind the 218 signatures on the discharge petition, what's hiding behind the experiences that all these women had, what's hiding behind who's propping up who and why they just refuse to be transparent. Like, every time something happens on a daily basis, Jacob, Zev, every time he attacks a boat, he goes, he attacks a city, I always think the same thing. Wouldn't it just be easier to put out the Epstein files?
Yeah, it would.
It's true. It would be much easier, but he won't do it.
No, I know.
Won't do it, and we know why. That's the countdown today.
Jacob, thanks for this. Thanks for hanging out with us the whole time. I absolutely fucking loved doing this with you.
Yeah, it's great,
Thanks
Jacob. Your insight's great.
for having me on. One question.
Yes, sir.
I've been sitting here. I noticed a lot of people start following me, but I think due to that Substack malfunction, I don't get subscribers. Am I right in saying there's no facilities so people can subscribe?
There is, right at the top of the left of everyone's phone, there's a button there that they should be able to press to subscribe. But as you point out, there's something weird going on lately. We've seen it earlier on, and people are messaging it in the chats here earlier on that they can't subscribe to you for some reason, Jacob, and to Dean, you as well. They've mentioned that, and I've noticed something of a flat lining on my subscriptions. Maybe there is something going on that we're not fully aware of, where subscription options are just
folks,
not being.
yeah, if you could
happening.
just do us a little favor while you're watching, is hit that little gray button in the corner. It's got my name, Zeb's names. Zeb's name, Jacob's name. Hit that button and subscribe to us. Follow us, subscribe if you can. It'll be automatic. Let me know if it's working, and we'll try and figure this out a little bit, or maybe just a little beta test. Are you not getting any subscribers at all? People can follow you, but they can't subscribe. Is that true?
It looks like a lot of subscribers, but no follow. A lot of followers, but no subscribers.
Huh?
That is weird. That is weird. They should be fairly in sync.
I'll write the Substack help desk again and say, there's something wrong.
All right, I'm gonna do the same thing. Because I didn't notice that, but I haven't been number hawking over the past few days. I've been busy with other things. Sometimes I find if I number hawk, I tend to not do great work. That's just how I am.
It's like watching a boiling pot of water.
I see the notifications up on the top of my screen here. It's all follow, no subscribers. So that's what got me thinking. Perhaps there's a problem, because usually it'll be subscribers.
Every single person we've spoken to in the last few days on any of these Substack lives, all the contributors are saying exactly the same thing. There's something fishy going on with the Substack platform, and we're not quite sure what it is. But people should keep tracking it and giving us that information.
Dude,
and
call
we'll
Hamish.
get action.
Call Hamish.
Yeah.
He's your guy. He's our guy.
I
He's
just want
one
to
of
make sure
the
that I'm
co-founders.
going there with something that's actually like I can say, hey, this is really happening. So not just a theory, but I'm going to give him a call.
You know what you should do? Go there and tell him Jacob lost 4 million subscribers and $100 million today.
I will do that. No problem. Don't mess with the
Jacob,
Danes. I'm telling you.
Danish intelligence, Jacob Kaarsbo. Jacob is first name and last name Kaarsbo, K2A's Give him a follow. Make sure you subscribe. We're going to try and figure this whole thing out. I absolutely love it when you come on. Dude, you are a wealth of knowledge. You're fun to talk to, but more importantly, you're on the right side, which is democracy's sake. Sovereignty for every country. And to have you here definitely goes so much further for guys like me. And I think everybody else in understanding what's going on around is taking nothing away from Zev, who's a very good explainer of things. Being a former intelligence officer, yes, we'll just love having you. So thanks for being here, brother.
Thanks a lot. See you soon.
You got it.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
Jacob.
Jacob Kaarsbo, everybody. This is a
It's
real
great having him on.
sensibility there, isn't it?
Yeah,
That's what
I love the
talking to
Danes. They're
that
so
guy.
cool and calm, and they just they don't lose their cool. Everything still smiles and smiles. But there's a lot going on in the world that would make any intelligence person freak out, and they're just very, very calm about it.
Yeah, I love Europeans. I spent a lot of time in Europe this summer, and they're it's funny because they're just living life, right? And they'll talk about this shit, but they've been living with this shit in their lives for 100 years, right? If it's not Russia, it's Germany. If it's not Germany, it's Russia. They've been and they're so multi over there because it is the EU. Everybody over there just kind of gets on with their business. You got a bunch of countries that share the same money. You've got a real sense of European pride and historic cultural pride in that area, but they are so used to the things that shock us on a daily basis because they've lived through dictatorial regimes, right? We've never had a world war on our soil. They've had a couple of them in the past 100 years. And those scars are still fresh. So, I'm so happy to have guys like him on because, it's funny. We look all jumped up. This is all happening on their soil. It's happening to them. Russia's literally flying drones into their country, and he's smiling about it.
Yeah,
yeah. That
mind
happened
you,
last
it's also
week.
happening here. It's not that we're just we're imagining it. This is what's going on in America right now is unbelievable. We keep laughing about it or dismissing it as being not too, because you have to laugh because otherwise, how do you go on in your day-to-day life? But it is really serious. It's really serious. There's no other way to look at it. What's happening to America right now is the most existential crisis we've had since the dawning of this country, and it is fundamentally challenging the national security of the world around the world. And that's why everyone should follow deanblundell.substack.com. That's where you get every bit of news that you need. Dean has been doing a bang-up job. A lot of today's show comes out of Dean's incredible Substack. So read it, check it out right now. There's some good stuff there as well about Virginia Giuffre's book, obviously, but also about Prince Andrew and about Zelensky's response to Donald Trump, plus some insights into the No Kings protest. So must follow deanblundell.substack.com, as is Jacob Kaarsbo.
Yeah, thank you. Narrative 2, don't forget. No, you can't get out of here without me bigging you up, dude. Narrative.org is where you can find some of the best investigative reporting and some of the best interviews. I know you finished up with Waj and Lev today, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that was really good. It was really interesting. Waj is so driven, and it was able to just connect all the dots that was so important in terms of understanding the what is going on with the Epstein story and Giuffre and Lev Parnas. Always amazing, always amazing. Just can't believe that we get to have.
You know what I love about Lev?
Yeah,
too. Dude, this is what I love about Lev. So many things. He's such a gentleman. And my partner took away my phone this weekend, so I wasn't allowed to talk to him. So it's okay. His wife did the same thing to him a couple of weeks ago, but I'm going to give him a call as soon as we're done.
Yeah.
What I love about Lev, because he tries to kind of walk you through, the reality, not what you're told, but the reality of what's going on. And when you catch on in a conversation with him, my favorite Levism is when he leans into the camera and does one of these with his fingers. He's like, you got it.
Yeah. He does that great stuff. He really he's been in the room. He knows what it's like. He knows exactly what it's like. And he's a real gentleman. I mean, he said today that, I've investigated him, and I did investigate him quite deeply. He said he felt like I'd probed every part of his body by the time I had finished my reporting on him many years ago. And it's true. And the fact that he's able to sit on a panel with me today, and we could talk about a way out of this crisis is remarkable, and his intentions are very heartfelt, and he's very sincere about it. So, everyone should follow him too. Lev and Waj did a great job today. And
Lev remembers Left Hook with Wajad Ali. Follow him. You guys were so good today. It was such a great watch. So go there and check that out. Become a paid subscriber if you want access to the chat. Listen, we love you. Love that we get to do this with you every single day at 3:00. We might miss a day or two here because life kind of catches up with us. But I want to thank Kat, Oaths Matter, Courtney, every single person that makes something like this so impactful for us. And hopefully it's impactful for you. Becoming a subscriber is so important to us. Sharing this content is even more important to us. Paid subs that go the extra mile. We owe you everything. We owe you our lives. We owe you our effort. And we do that every day. So 50% off at deanblundell.substack.com to the end of the month. And it is my pleasure. And make sure that you do the same thing for Zev. Make sure you do the same thing for my friend Lev. Make sure you do the same thing for Jacob. And hit us up, send us a DM if you're one of our followers and you're noticing that you can't subscribe, or if you're noticing anything fishy in the algorithm as well. Let's stay on top of that. We'll look into Substack and we'll try and get some answers for you as well. But thank you again, everybody, for taking time to be with us today. That is it for the FiveStack for your Monday. Have a wonderful day. That is my friend Zev. I am Dean, and we'll see you tomorrow at 3:00, guys.
Cheers, Dean. Cheers, everyone.